with them present, not that they fill out something and send it to them.
I've worked in elections just about all of my life, and one of the things I've done, I've been a county chairman, a political party county chairman. And one of the things that county chairman can do is go up and watch absentee votes go through the process and actually see the voting going on. And one thing I've noticed, if there's going to be some kind of misconduct, I think it very often happens around the absentee box.
Yes, sir.
And I have noticed that, especially where the witnesses sign on to the ballot, if you see names repeated over and over again of witnesses, then it makes you very suspect of the process. I want to thank you for filing the bill and appreciate it very much,
Thank you, Representative, for your comments.
And thanks to the gentleman. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Tuscaloosa, Representative England. See you on the floor. Well, let's move on. Representative Rogers, gentleman from Jefferson County, second person speaking on the B hour.
I'm sorry. Tell me, what does this bill do? Does this been said by absentee ballot? You know, absentee ballot has been quite a thorn in the Alabama side for years. So now, I'm not against the absentee ballot because I want everybody to vote, but what does this bill do and why is it necessary?
Thank you, Representative, for your question. And first of all, I want to tell you that I won my election by 7 votes. So every vote counts, and I know that.
But
so
by 7 votes? Okay.
Yes, sir. So I want people to be able to vote, but I want their vote to count. So what this bill says is that an individual or an organization cannot pre-fill out a voter registration, doesn't talk about the ballot, a voter registration, okay, or an absentee application, and send it out to someone to have them sign it and mail it back in. That is what this says. The only pre-filled boxes that are allowable is the return address that has to be on that so that the person that receives that application knows where to send it back. And may I offer you some ideas of why this bill was brought?
Please.
Okay.
Because I'm real curious because of the fact that we've had people put in jail by this, who happen to be 2 old black ladies. They just been charged fine. I think I remember their names, and I want to make sure this bill doesn't violate the principle of absentee ballot. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So this is some examples that I received in the 2020 election cycle. There was a Madison County resident that had been deceased since 1916 that voted. How can you vote if you've been dead since 1916? There was a Jefferson County resident that had registered early that year to vote, brought in his registration, but when he came to vote, someone had already cast his vote. There's confusion among people when this is done. We need to make sure that when someone comes to vote and they are a legal person and they have registered in our state, that they get to vote, that someone else doesn't take that right away from them. So that's a couple of examples. I'll give you one more. There was a Lamar County resident that had been voting at the same address for decades, for years, but yet he received an absentee ballot pre-filled in the mail to him.
Well, you know, I know everybody remember the situation, and we are very cautious when it comes to something dealing with voting because we want to make sure that everybody has the right to vote in a fair, equal election. You know, I didn't get a chance to speak on the last bill, but right now there's so much distrust in this legislative process now that I don't think that anything that comes going to be suspect. I mean, we sit here and we passed the bill by Representative Friday.
Yes, sir.
On this bill about higher education, well, we couldn't prevent you from having, and I don't know about, everybody forgot about Friday's bill evidently. Well, you can't prevent a college from calling in a controversial speaker. We passed that bill overwhelmingly in this House. Then we turn around and pass a bill like we just passed, which make all these other bills, your bill on down, suspect to us. And it's not right. And I'm not here to preach to you or anybody in the House because everybody got a conscience. All that, I mean, I thought they had one anyway. I'm beginning to doubt that now, very seriously. But when you put these voting bills behind that first bill, it makes you suspect. And I've been in the legislature since not long as Jabbo and a lot of other folks, but I've been a long time. And I can remember when we had respect for each other. Mm-hmm. I can remember when Republicans and Democrats cooperated. I can remember all of us working together. But I haven't seen that lately. And maybe with some people resigning, not coming back, maybe this house will get a little better. And I had a lot of respect for a lot of people that I've lost respect for. And I backed up a lot of folks in the legislature, whether they're black, white, blue, green, or chartreuse. I don't dislike anybody. But now we're feeling like we're being disliked and not being treated properly. Used to be a time we would never be invoke cloture. We would stay all night if necessary because we didn't invoke cloture. We didn't, and Victor knows that. We didn't invoke cloture back in those days. We didn't do that. I don't remember those vote cloture. I know I never would vote cloture. But what I'm going to say this from the bottom of my heart. I am hurt. I really feel bad. I didn't get a chance to speak on the other bill. I just feel bad.
Well, you
and even though you might have a good bill for good reason, the mere fact that we feel like what y'all done to us make everything like that suspect. Now, Miss Bozeman, that's her name, Julia Bozeman. They brought charges against this old black lady because she did absentee ballots. 2 of them. They had to go through the political process of going to court over and over again, then found out there was really no crime committed. It's the elderly black woman who was, I think she was 70 years old, had to put through that kind of treatment. Now I thought I really feel bad today because of the fact that what has happened. What we've done here probably can never be repaired. You create a line of total distrust between us and everybody else. I can remember that everybody in the House were Democrats. You couldn't win in Alabama, you were a Democrat. Now it's not a party thing anymore. It's black and white now, which shouldn't be. I'm telling you, it hurts me to my heart what's happening in this house. And it's bad. That line of trust has been so totally destroyed. I don't think it ever could be. Don't pat me on my back and tell me you like me, we all right. When I know in your heart you're not. And when you bring a bill like this right now, everybody is suspect of it. Because of Julia Bozeman and the other person who were totally vindicated as they finally did all the investigation. But their lives were ruined. Totally ruined. You know why? Because they were black. Now it's time for us to realize that if we will ever make Alabama great, we got to have black and white working together. There's an old saying, it takes two keys to play the Star Spangled Banner. Well, we just tore the piano up in this house. I don't think anything can be done now to correct what's been done. I think now that you could pass up at one of us on the back and say, I didn't mean to do what I did, but you did it. You passed one bill by your own folks, Representative Friday, saying you can't eliminate controversial speech in a college. But then you turn around and come back around and cut and slit somebody's throat. Now, I don't know about nobody else in this house, but we feel, I can tell you how they feel, we feel that y'all have totally disrespected us. And I don't blame no one person for doing it. This is terrible, Mr. Speaker, what's happening in the House. And I blame the leadership for doing it. Don't pat me on my back and tell me you love me and then cut my throat.
And the gentleman's...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Representative.
All right. The chair now will recognize the gentleman from Pike County, Representative Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead, Representative Allen. You have the floor.
Just making sure I've got the floor, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank Ms. Wood for bringing the bill to further strengthen. Mr. Speaker,
Yes, please, let's show respect for the members on the floor, just as we all have. Let's all right. Go ahead, Representative Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ms. Wood, thank you for bringing this bill to further for our election security. I just want to thank you for your hard work on it. I know you've taken a lot of steps to help this in this situation with our election security. I know it's near and dear to your heart, so I just want to thank you for bringing this bill, House Bill 63. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative.
Chair thanks the gentleman. All right. And let's go to the lady from Madison, Representative Hall, speaking on the BR.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the lady you,
Yes, always.
could you just tell me exactly what are we trying to do here as it relates to elections?
House Bill 63. House Bill 63 only deals with voter registration
Okay.
and absentee applications. It doesn't deal with any type of ballots. So I think that that's the most important thing.
So let's go to the voter registration.
Okay.
What is it that we're doing with voter registration in your bill
Okay.
that is not being done today?
Okay, what we're trying to prevent, there's currently not a law that says if you pre-fill out the voter registration and you mail it to someone or take it to someone and have them sign it, there should be no pre-filled out boxes. It also says that if you receive that back, I'm sorry.
No, so the pre-fill, so we
Right.
have applications for people to register, for people to sign up for voting, absentee.
And,
Is that what you're
And
saying?
to become a voter, just to become a voter.
So if a person is interested in making sure he or she is registered,
Yes, ma'am.
and I've never had this experience, but I'm going to use myself as an example. That individual says, yes, I'd like to register to vote. I would take that registration form and fill in that form, and that person sign it. You're saying this bill would make that illegal?
If they ask for your help in your presence, it would not be illegal. No, ma'am.
So how
What we are
go-
trying to do is...
Let's stop right
Oh, I'm
there.
sorry.
How are we going to determine if they ask for help or not ask for help and it's
Well, the bill,
Trying to understand.
the bill does make an exception.
okay?
Or if they ask for assistance, they
Okay,
can be assisted. They can be assisted by the Secretary of State's office, someone within the voter registration office, or even a friend. If someone asks me to assist them, I can do that. This is not trying to prevent people from being able to register to vote. It's not, what we're trying to do is prevent third parties from sending in information to individuals that oftentimes are wrong, that are incorrect, and have them sign it and send it back.
so are you saying we have evidence? I'd be interested in saying we have evidence
We do.
that we had a third party.
Mhm.
Is it an individual? Is it an organization? Is it a company? Is it a nursing facility? What is that evidence that you have that provides that?
We have information that's been turned in. May I read this to you?
I'm listening.
Okay, great. All right. In the 2018 and 2020 cycle, third-party organizations sent out voter registration forms to individuals. These forms were pre-filled. Most of them contained the wrong name or address of the citizen. In many cases, the individual had been deceased for many years. In some cases, the recipient was even a household pet. These groups are outdated or suspicious. They have outdated data, to prepare mailers with no regard for the amount of confusion they would cause among constituents. When contacted by the Secretary of State's office, these organizations take zero responsibility. So the information that I obtained is from the Secretary of State's office.
So are you able to tell me who those organizations were?
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
Are you able to tell me who those organizations were that did this?
I do not have the organization's name. No, ma'am, I do
I'd
not.
like to have that information. Now, I do a lot of voter registration.
Okay.
I participate in a lot of activities. Even before I was an elected official, I was very much engaged in helping individuals to register to vote,
I can see that.
helping people get to the polls to vote,
Yes, ma'am.
and all of those things. And I certainly wouldn't have been I haven't seen a situation that you've just described. I'd be interested in knowing, is that something, now I live in Madison County,
Yes, ma'am.
and I'd be interested in knowing if that
Okay.
type of thing,
I can get
that
you a copy of
information,
that.
if you would get that information, I'd love
Yes,
to
ma'am.
see and know what who the organization was and what the organization was.
Yes.
So you're saying that an organization, let's say something Q59 or somebody was an organization, and they filled out applications for individuals that were non-existent.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if you were able to hear, I read a couple of examples. May I read those again? So, because I know that there was so much going on, but in Madison County,
I'm listening.
in the 2020 election cycle that we just had, 2020, a Madison County resident had been deceased since 1916, and they cast their vote.
And they were able to vote. And so what?
1916. they've been
Okay, and
deceased.
so who was that individual? Did they look for the individuals or determine who did that, or what organization did that?
Well,
was
I
that
don't know that the problem is that the organizations, when you call them, they don't accept responsibility. So,
I want to know which organization that was.
Yes,
I'd be
ma'am.
interested.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
really do. I mean,
Oh,
because
sure.
I think if there's an
Sure.
organization that's sending in folks that have
Mhm.
died since 1916,
1916. And then we had another one that had been deceased for 25 years in the state of Alabama. We had, and the one that really upset me more than anything else was the Lamar County resident that had gone and registered to vote, went to vote that day, and they said, you've already voted.
Now, I have heard of people saying that they have registered to vote absentee, did not get the ballot, and then they've gone on election day.
Well,
You're saying that is not the case.
No, ma'am. He actually went to vote, and when he got there, they said, you've already voted.
And what was that individual's response to that?
I do not have that information. I do know it was in Lamar County. That is all I can tell you.
Is that your county?
No, ma'am. Chambers is
Oh, your
mine.
Chambers, okay. All right.
I'm talking about everybody else's county.
I know you made sure you mentioned Madison County.
No, they gave me that information.
Now I have to go back to Madison County and check that out. But I do, and I think what you hear from me and what you will hear from others that will speak about this is that nobody, I don't know of anybody in this room who's elected that would be supportive of somebody voting illegally. But also realizing that if you look at the number, and I don't know how many what the number was like that you had, that the key thing for all of us is making sure we have as many people going to the polls as possible to vote, and that this is not looked upon as this is another way to prevent people from voting. Yes. Or causing that to happen.
I totally agree with you, and that's why I mentioned to the representative earlier, I only won my vote by 7 votes. So when you say 7. So when you say every vote counts, and one of those was a provisional ballot vote. So every vote does count.
It does.
And all of us want our constituents to have the ability to go and vote and hopefully vote for us. But what we don't want is individuals casting a vote that they don't need to cast.
I don't think I can't imagine you finding anybody in this room wanting that.
Right.
I can't even imagine anybody in this room even participating in such activity. And so my concern is that, is that an issue that is, is that 100, 200, is that 10?
Well, I don't have the infraction amount. I wasn't given that information as to how many were actually found. I know that the work began in 18, going through and finding errors and finding this information that we have. But I think the biggest thing that the bill does that I appreciate is it does not in any way limit or prohibit a voter from soliciting and asking for help from someone if they need it to fill out their applications. It says that in this bill. We just don't want third-party organizations entering our state, pre-filling out the applications. That's what we're trying to prevent.
So when you said third party, you're talking about people from outside the state of Alabama?
It can be people outside of the state. It can be people inside the state. It could be a group. It could be individuals that go out and intentionally do this.
And the ladies' time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
All right.
Representative.
Members, the question before us now is going to be on the adoption of the BIR. If you're in favor of the BIR, your vote is aye. If opposed, your vote is no. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote.
Yes. Yeah, Jenny did yes. Sorry.
All the members voted. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. There are 74 yeas, 26 nays, 1 abstention, and the BIR is adopted. And now we're back on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, body. If there are no more questions, I'd ask for final passage of the bill.
All right, the question is final passage on House Bill 63, and the chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Gavan, speaking on the bill. Final passage.
Turn me round, turn me round. I I only wish on that song that my colleagues would have done as we used to do of old. All joined together and stood with Representative Moore. Because there was a clarion call back in the day for black folk who were tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired. But things are a little bit different now. And we sometimes forget those scars and those battle scars of those who sat so we can stand and who stood so we can now sit. But this bill, I think I spoke about it in committee. And there is nothing that we do here in this House of Representatives that will ever be foolproof to stop a bad actor. We pass laws for that purpose, but the realization is that's never going to ever fully happen in a society of people who are not always of like mind. I am, however, always concerned when these types of bills come here and we portray to a nation, to our state, and to citizens therein that our voting system is so flawed and there is so much widespread fraud and voter fraud, and it's not the case. Even if it's one, that's one too many, we get that. But even as I listen that you roll off, you know, Madison County and one or two other counties, the widespread voter fraud that your Secretary of State has said time and time again that Alabama is way ahead of many states, A rating, even with the last election. Some things can boil down to computer error, not necessarily human error. And so to come here today, and as I stated, to further criminalize someone who could possibly just simply make a mistake, it's disheartening to me. To put voters in a place where they can't even ask for help in many instances is very disheartening for me. This bill would present, and this is the summary that you passed out, would prohibit any individual or entity from providing a registered voter with a pre-filled voter registration application or absentee ballot.
Application.
Help me understand what a pre-filled voter registration is.
Well, I have a.
Now you're bringing this bill, and
I was going to show you an example that I had on my phone.
You don't have to show me. You can just tell me.
So there are blanks that you fill in with your name, with your address, and your information to become a legal voter in the state. If someone pre-fills that out with a name, with an address, the only exception for anything being pre-filled out is the return address to come back into the county. That is the only exception. So anything that's pre-filled out and mailed out or sent to someone to sign without them asking for your help, that's another exception, okay? That is what we're talking about with this bill.
I'm still confused. I tried my best to understand when this bill came before the committee. I still really don't understand it. I really don't even see how it's going to be policed. A lot of the things that we're talking about really boils down to ultimate enforcement. Who's going to enforce these? Who's going to be standing there? Who's going to be policing these voter registration forms? Nobody. They don't have time to do that. You got thousands of people or hundreds of people coming in. No one's going to be standing there with a rough eye looking at a pre-filled form or fillable form to police whether or not someone marks in that box other than their name or what have you. Nobody's going to do that. And whenever I stand, I can only go by what I see in Jefferson County and the precincts that I visit, and I visit all of my precincts on election day. Whether it's my election or whether it's a state election or not, I make it my business to go to every precinct. And I watch. And I monitor. And what I see when the folks are coming in is nobody's other than if they see their neighbor, they may wave their hand, but everybody's about the business of being about the business of going in there, getting a ballot, filling out that ballot, putting it in the machine, and getting a check, I voted sticker. Now, I have not witnessed, and Jefferson County is a rough place. It's rough as it relates to, because we go hard at the polls in Jefferson County. If nowhere else in the state, we go hard at the polls. Many of our races are won at the polls.
Right.
So I can honestly say that the folks sitting in here, Representative Moore, Rogers, Coleman, Alexander, Scott, we are poll warriors. I would almost venture to say experts in this area.
That's getting people to the polls.
Not even about getting the
Okay.
whole system.
Okay.
I'm a student of politics.
Right.
And that's something that no one in here would even be able to even contend with or take away, period. So as it relates to this, I don't know what happened. It's happening in small town Alabama. I hear a lot's been happening in small town Alabama lately. But as far as where I live, this is not an issue for me. And I have a very close, my registrar is the chairman of all the registers for the state of Alabama.
Okay.
And we talk on a regular basis. I have him on speed dial. I'm typically on the phone with him on election day. Because I have folks that get to the polls and the way the lines are drawn, they don't see my name, they go crazy when they don't see my name at their precinct.
That happen. Mm-hmm.
So, I'm constantly trying to juggle that. But as far as this, my concern has been and will continue to be is that every bill that comes here continues to appear to be a bill that further disenfranchises someone's ability to vote. The elderly will be with you forever, from the mouth of babes. So we're going to have those individuals that will not have the capacity or will get to a point of incapacity in many instances, where they will need direction. And someone at that precinct is going to be compelled in some kind of way, because it's human nature. We're humans, to help them. I see this bill being another attempt, and I understand about the 7 votes. 7 votes is a whole lot on election day.
Your phone's on your right.
I couldn't even imagine.
Okay.
I couldn't even imagine that. I would be shaking in my boots at that point. But again, I'm not clear on this bill. I wasn't when it came out of committee. These groups and my question before I take my seat that has been answered who are these groups? I want to know who the groups are that you're speaking of, because you have not been able to answer who these people are. And if we're voting on something and you're accusing a group of people or an entity or something of something, you should be woman enough to say who they are. So I don't know who these groups are. And I don't think you do either.
Thank you, Representative.
And the chair recognizes the gentleman from Hale, Representative Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentlelady yield?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
There's a quote by Maya Angelou that says, despite history's wrenching pain, it cannot be unlived. But if faced with courage, it should not be lived again. If you understand some of the wrenching pain that some of us and our forefathers have endured, then y'all will understand why these voting bills mean so much to some communities. I find myself, Ms. Woods, volunteering to help folks. So under this bill, if I volunteer, if I told somebody, hey, let me help you, but you're saying they have to ask me for help.
Says if they reach out for assistance, you can assist them. This is not about someone helping a person in their church or someone helping their relatives. That's not what this bill is about.
I understand that, but you said that person has to